You will also, as a manager, have a login to Engage. So Engage is the online portal that holds all of your absence data. And if you haven't logged in yet, you can activate your login by putting your work email in this field on the login page. The login page, the portal in general is hosted at engage.honeydew-health.com, and I believe Sanita has circulated that to all managers so that you have that link, and it should be as a shortcut somewhere in your intranet as well. So when you go onto this portal, the first page you can activate your login the first time you come along. Once you've got your password and login details, you just obviously sign in, and the first thing you see is the dashboard, and the dashboard is your sort of shortcut and your snapshot of your today's absence picture. I've logged into a dummy account, so this is test data or fictitious. But in your case, you would see any open absences for your own team. If you've got more than one on the screen, you can click on the open absences and it would list all of the absentees here. If you click on the name of the employee, you see their absence history. The green line at the top is the open absence, which you can view the details. You can view the details for any of these records. And if you do log in, you'll notice that we've uploaded some historic data. So HR have provided us with 12-month histories, and we've uploaded all that information. So there'll be 12-month history so that all the figures work correctly. Every time the employee calls, we will make a new entry in this log. So every time there's a call, you will see whatever notes that were made during that call, and you can see here that the call center has made this entry. Otherwise, it could be a manager, so then your name, or if it was someone from HR, their name would appear in that username field. You can add comments, add files. If someone sends you a sick note, you can scan it in. You can log that it was sent. Sick notes, by the way, still need to go to HR as they did before. So if employees, they can either send them directly to HR, or if you receive one, you should forward it on to HR so that they can keep them in their records. Going back to the dashboard, in the middle is outstanding tasks. So this would probably be the bit that brings you to the system most often, or most likely. So these would be the return to work interviews and the review meetings that our system is automatically triggering. A return to work interview is a 2-page form. It sort of talks about, it's fairly industry standard really, so it talks about reporting absence on time, keeping the record up to date, keeping in contact regularly. It's about whether it was medical or non-medical, and if any medical advice was given, or if any medication is still sort of ongoing, anything like that. So if any adjustments need to be made in the workplace. The one question that I would point out here is this number 4, was this an authorized absence? And that's because if it was an authorized absence, that for some reason should not count towards that person's absence level. It's important that we record it as such, so that then going forward, we don't incorrectly include it in the 3 spells or the 10 days, those policy triggers that you have. So if you do feel that this was an authorized absence, let's say bereavement, or sometimes time off for dependents is a common one, then you can record that on the return to work interview. Just on the point of time off for dependents, there's been some discussion in some of the training sessions that we've done, but generally time off for dependents is must be allowed to a reasonable amount of time off must be allowed for dependents and family emergencies, but it is unpaid time off. So so just in case that was unclear for anyone. And then just to note as well that because it's an electronic form, so rather than collecting a signature, we just ask for employee initials and manager initials. And once you've saved this form, it becomes a static PDF form that you won't be able to edit any longer. And that PDF form can then also be printed in if necessary. In most cases, most straightforward return to work interviews, we wouldn't recommend or you wouldn't be required to print it. HR are happy for you to just keep an electronic copy. It's only if you've discussed some sort of absence improvement targets, or if there's been some discussion about that employee's absence being higher than you'd expect, or that is acceptable, then those types of conversations you might want to just get their signature so that everybody agrees what's been said. Once you have the PDF as well, you can save it, of course, electronically and send a copy to the employee if you want. So if some managers have been saying that they're probably going to do that so that everybody has a copy of the notes, and that's absolutely fine, of course. The review meetings that I mentioned, as I said, they're two-part meetings, or tasks rather. So first part is to schedule absence review meeting, and it will just tell you here what the reason was, so what trigger created this task. So that's usually useful, a reminder of why. Sometimes you're not sure why the system has prompted this task, then that will give you the clue. And we appreciate that often review meetings need to be held maybe in a few weeks' time. It takes a little while to find the time. Also, if the employee has just gone off sick, then you might need to wait until they're feeling better and coming back to work. Having said that, though, in some long-term cases, you might need to have the review meeting whilst the employee is still absent, provided that they're well enough to attend. So that is really the reason why the review meeting task gets prompted straight away when somebody trips the trigger. Because if it's a long-term absence, then waiting for the day when they come back to work can be actually detrimental to their return to work. So the sooner that the communication can be open can sometimes be useful and helpful for the employee, help them to recover and also to explore any phased returns or adjustments that could be put in place. So review meeting, I'm going to say I'll organize it for the 30th of September. I'll obtain my letter templates, send them out to the employee, invite them to the meeting, do all of that usual admin side that goes into it, and then submit this form. And it then creates a new task, which is the second part for the 30th of September. And then that's very similar looking form because the main part is the absence history, and the new part are the notes of the discussion and improvement targets. So this one, I'll put something in here so that I can show you how it looks. So you are again asked for the initials, but when you save, you are then presented with the printable form. And as I said, there is a signature field from employee and manager, and it's useful to have this one printed because it's a review meeting and there will be improvement targets that everybody has to agree to. Then it's good to get the employee to sign it as well as the manager, and you can then scan it in and attach it to the absence record. So adding files, you can add scanned files through there on the absence record. The meeting notes that I've just completed will be available through the absence record as a download whenever you need it. So you'll have the electronic copy at all times as well on there. The other tasks that we've also got on here is one of them is the consider occupational health referral. That's after 4 weeks of absence, and you would follow your normal OH referral process. This is just to prompt you to consider, have a look at the absence history, have a look at the current absence record, and think about, do you think occupational health doctor could give you some advice on this case? And then finally, the outbound call is a very simple form where you just say when did you make the call and what discussion was had. Coming back to what we talked about right at the beginning, when in situations where for some reason you can't or decide not to hold an interview or a review meeting, it could be in this kind of scenario where someone's gone off sick again when you haven't had the time to complete the return to work interview, and you know you'll have another interview to do when they come back from the next absence. So that could be one scenario. Another one could be that it's actually an authorized absence. So someone's had let's say a bereavement and you want to authorize compassionate leave, and then you may decide that no return to work interview is needed after that. So then you can go in here, say return to work interview not required, write down your notes about the reason, and that will dismiss the task. Bearing in mind that the dismissal is logged on the absence record with the username, so the person who dismissed it, and it's something that we do report back to HR. So in terms of if this happens a lot, then someone might come back and ask you to explain why are so many tasks being dismissed. It should really be the last resort, because in most cases, even if it is an informal rather than formal absence review meeting, it's good practice to have a chat face to face with the person who's been off, just to make sure that you know of any underlying reasons, and also to show that duty of care and the actual personal interest in that employee's welfare. Just going back to the dashboard for just briefly, at the bottom row you've got the absence levels, a league table, and top 5 absence causes, and that's your sort of snapshot of absence across your own team. In the league table you'll be able to see how other teams are doing, so if you want to do a little bit of competition with next door neighbours, you could see how your team's attendance is tracking versus somebody else's. And the top 5 absence causes is meant to show you any recent trends that are coming up. So these are all for the last 30 days. If you wanted to look at any stats in more detail, we have a report section, and we're also going to set up a monthly report to come to all line managers automatically, so that it will just remind you to download the report and have a quick look at how you're doing with absence, making sure that you're on top of everything. I'm aware that I've been talking for a very long time, and so I don't know, does anyone have any questions at this point?
No.
No. That's pretty much it. One final note from me is that there is a resource hub on this system, and there are things like how to complete a return to work interview video, and how to getting started video, things like that. So this is where you could come if you wanted some sort of short tutorials on any tasks and how to navigate around the system if it takes a little while before you have to get started, and by that time you might need a refresher. We're also happy to help, and first point of contact being Sanita in HR, so that she can keep an eye on any changes or updates that need to be made. But also all the emails that we send come from a hello@honeydew-health.com address, and that's a monitored email address. So if you ever respond to any of our emails, they come back to us, and we can, if there's any queries, we can then deal with them via email that way. That's really it. So hopefully that's been informative, and if you have any questions afterwards, like I say, don't hesitate to get in touch. I'll leave it at that, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.